Modern Lifekeeping. I'm your host, Lori Christine. Well, I took a break last week and I didn't want to break again this week, but I've had a lot going on. Suddenly I'm contemplating moving out of the country and trying something completely new, and as you can imagine, that's bringing a lot of upheaval in my life. Also in the midst of launching an online course, so I just had a lot going on. I thought this week we could talk a little bit about when you feel misunderstood. It happened again this week. I facilitate a writing group and I was in the group, and I don't know, someone said that, they don't understand me. I'm misunderstood. And I don't understand this thinking. I don't understand why we feel like we should or need to or can understand others. Many of us don't even fully understand ourselves. I'm very selective in what I share with people and who I share my personal feelings with, obviously besides on this broadcast. But in general, I'm not just out telling everybody everything, and I don't have a need for everyone to understand me. I guess I'm a rather private person, and it always surprises me when people tell me, my sister said it, well, you know what the problem is? I finally figured it out. I'm like, what? She's like, people misunderstand you. You're misunderstood. And I'm like, oh, I don't know why people think that they have the ability to understand other people in the first place. Work on understanding yourself, right? Just concentrate on understanding yourself. It's not our business to understand other people. I guess that's just how I feel. I don't know how else to say it. Obviously, there's situations where we're communicating important information, we're teaching, we're doing something like that, and then it is imperative that we're understood. Me being told that I'm misunderstood is not coming up in those contexts. I think in those contexts, I'm very clear, probably almost to a fault. All right, but in general, in a personal context, apparently people don't understand me, and this just perplexes me. I often will say I'm black and white and gray. That kind of sums it up. I'm not to be understood. I'm open to a lot of different possibilities. My mind constantly changes. I'm an individual that's moving. I'm in constant movement. My energy's not sitting anywhere in any long period of time. So I don't know why people think that they could understand me, because it's not stagnant. It's not something to be understood. I don't know how else to say it. It's moving. It's alive. So I guess this week I wanted to talk about that, see how other people feel about it, and also communicate that, we might each reflect on our need to understand others, especially when it comes before understanding ourselves. And, I ended up responding back to this individual and suggesting, when we try to put other people in boxes, it doesn't work. There's certain people, I can't be put in a box. I will fight that box. Okay. I don't want to be in a box. I'm not in a box. And when we try to interpret who other people are based on the boxes that exist in our life, we have no other choice but to put them in the boxes that we already have. And there's just times where people don't fit into those boxes. And I'm sorry, I just don't think that's my issue. I think it might be yours. I think you might not have enough boxes, or your boxes might be too small, or in general, they're not an adaptable size. I don't know what to tell you. Stop feeling the need to understand others on a personal level, because it's not always for you to understand. Again, I'm discerning in who I share that information with. So it's not, I guess I would say it's not personal, but it is. In fact, it is personal. I don't want to share all my beliefs and my values and my character flaws and everything else with everybody. I guess I just don't understand our need to understand people. What if we just accepted people for who they are, and we just be with them as they are, as they show up, and accept them for who they are in that moment, instead of, again, trying to put them into some compartment we have to, control their behavior, to predict their behavior, to understand their thinking. Is it empathy? I don't believe it is. I think it's an illusion to think it is. I think empathy looks more like accepting someone as they are and meeting them where they're at, and not trying to, again, put them into boxes that you have in your mind about who they should be, who they could be, who they would be, who they seem to be, because you don't really know. Just sit with who they are. Stop trying to understand people, because again, when you're doing that, you're not being a good listener, because you're spending the time understanding what they're saying instead of just listening to what they have to say, and then maybe just seeing how it feels and sitting with it, sharing the emotion with that person. That's something that you can share. You don't have to, share how you understand them. I just don't know. I mean, I guess in that context, you can tell them that you understand someone's feelings, but I'm talking about a context of really understanding who someone is. I don't know why other people think that they have the right to understand who other people are. Understand yourself and stand in that power, and don't try to come into other people's power by understanding them as well. Let other people be who they are. Because when we're trying to understand others, really what we're doing is creating labels for them. There's no other way to describe it, because you're describing an effort of labeling something. Why else would you want to understand something other than to label it and re-describe it, when that's really a lot of work. That's a lot of resistance. It's a lot of energy, and it's a lot of focus away from listening to what the person is actually saying. You can maybe understand what someone's expressing by the words that they use, but you don't need to understand their motive for expressing it. You don't know. I'm 55 years old. I literally have 55 years of experiences that if you meet me tomorrow, you know nothing about. So you cannot possibly understand where I'm coming from in just a regular conversation that two people might have in a meeting, or even casual friends might have. You cannot possibly understand why I have the views I have on things, why I express myself in the ways I do, why I keep my business personal. You can't possibly understand that in a short period of time or in a shallow relationship. Stop trying. That trying is resistance to really listening and being with each other. And that's what we're lacking in our society. That lack of, there's no connection when you're trying to understand me. That's an immediate disconnect. It triggers me. And at this point in my life, when I'm being triggered, it's usually for a higher lesson. It's not because I'm not emotionally balanced. I mean, it didn't trigger me and I told the person off, or I got angry, or I got upset. Not at all. It triggered all this thought, and it reinvited me to look at how I feel about it when people say, you're misunderstood. I guess it really makes me feel like if I'm being honest, I can't believe people have the audacity to think that they should be able to understand me. I just don't understand that. And I just want to communicate that with you. And there may be many of you scratching your head right now being like, I don't understand what she's trying to say. Okay. I don't understand this person. All right. And, then this might not be the message for you. But if you are tuning into a little bit of what I'm saying, you might rethink it next time you're sitting there talking with somebody and trying to understand where they're coming from. Why? Have you been with them? Can you possibly understand where they're coming from ever? Does the person exactly know where they're coming from? I'm not sure. I can't answer that. Stop worrying about understanding the person and be with that person. Connect with them in the words that they're saying, okay? And not necessarily all the meaning and the perspective and the perception and all these other words that we use behind what they're saying. Just be with that person. Stop trying to understand them. You can understand how they feel only because you listened and they told you, okay? You don't need to go any deeper than that. That trying to go deeper actually breaks the connection. Just be with each other. Don't get me wrong. I love the shock value. I'm having a lot of fun telling people that I'm going to move to another country when they might have talked to me like 2 days ago and that didn't come up. It did come up out of nowhere. To people that don't know, they don't know. And, if I sit and talk to them for half an hour, they can be like, oh, holy crap, we didn't know any of this. And there's seeds that I've planted. There's things that I've done. There's just opportunities that exist all around me, but I don't necessarily talk with everybody about them all the time. What's there to understand about that? Do you feel the need to understand why I would be so impulsive? Why? Why is it your business? Why do you need to understand why I might sell everything I own again and move to another country? Why do you need to understand that? Why can't you just accept it as that's what is? And support me in the decision in whatever way you can. But putting me in a position where I have to justify myself or testify to my history or explain my motives or prove my character, none of that is connection. I would argue if you're struggling to understand someone, you lack clarity. You may have some limiting beliefs that are blocking your ability to understand that someone can be completely different than you and still be a good person. That's on you, not me. If you don't understand my behavior, that misunderstanding is your body communicating to you that you're out of alignment with who you're most meant to be. You're not meant to understand other people at that level, you're just not. Maybe intimate partners, your close circle of friends, people that you reciprocally let in, allow in, okay? But not your everyday relationships. I wouldn't say I'm particularly close with my sister. I never had an everyday relationship with her. We could go months and years without speaking. So no, she probably can't understand me. We're not meant to understand each other at those levels. We have different personalities. We come from different experiences, backgrounds, okay? Some of us have different religious values or other cultural differences. We're not meant to understand everybody. That's so obvious by the fact that it's, even when we try to understand others, it feels sometimes near impossible. Those are indications that we're not meant to understand other people at that level. It's an opportunity for redirect. Redirect your attention when you're trying to understand someone to actually listening, just being with that person, just sharing the experience you're in that moment. That's about being in the present moment. Because I can assure you, when you're sitting there trying to understand someone, you're not in the present moment. Okay, even if it's happening after you interact with that person. You're still in the past. You went back to that moment to try to understand where that person was coming from. Who cares? Well, I don't know. You don't have better things to spend your energy on? Who cares where that person is coming from? Now, if your motive is to gain a higher perspective, I guess then reflection would be appropriate. But I would have to argue that most people's motive is not to gain a higher perspective. It's not to see things from my point of view or someone else's point of view so that they can broaden or expand their own perspective. No, it's to fit what you might have said or done into something that they already have in their existing framework. It's limiting. It's limiting. So, okay, that's what I really wanted to bring up, that topic of being misunderstood. It really comes up a lot for me. It can be disparaging if I allow it to be. It's, nobody wants to feel like they're misunderstood. It's gaslighting, because you're not meant to understand me. So stop making it my issue. I just don't think it is. You're misunderstood. No. Your need to understand me feels a lot like judgment. So I'm not going to be engaging in situations where people are trying to judge my behavior through their lens and their perspective. It's near impossible. So I just wanted to bring this topic up. It's come up several times. I've actually started several. I usually write my podcasts out, and that can take hours, and that's one of the things I'm trying to get away from because they seem kind of stuffy. But when I don't write it out, then I don't have a blog post. But I certainly have spent my share of time working and spending energy understanding others, their motives, their behaviors, and I can't say I ever really did. understand people's motives, or I just will never understand. And all that energy that I spent trying to is wasted time, and it served more as a distraction to understanding myself. And so now I spend my energy understanding myself and not worrying about what other people are doing or why they're doing it. I decide who sits at my table, who drinks from my cup, and who shares in my secrets. If people feel like they're not being included, then that's still not my problem. That's their journey. And I can only say that their journey is much easier when they begin to seek validation within themselves instead of outside of themselves. So thank you for listening to this week's episode of Modern Lifekeeping, brought to you by Kira Kisses. Have a good week, everybody. Until we meet again, keep wondering.